Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Animal Chiropractic Podcast with the Academy for the Advancement of Animal Chiropractic. We have here today with us myself, Dr. Rachel Went. We've got Dr. Karen and Dr. Byron. We're your hosts. And today we've got Dr. Joren with us. He is going to speak on kind of who he is, get to know him, get a little background, and talk about what he's going to be talking about in Cozumel with us, which we're all super excited about. So I'll dive in with a little bit of background so you guys understand, and then, we'll let him run with it. But Dr. Joren earned his bachelor's degree from Oklahoma State University and conducted research with the USDA before earning his Doctor of Chiropractic and Animal Chiropractic certification from Parker. After a construction injury led him to chiropractic, he built a thriving practice in Oklahoma, working with athletes, domestics, and exotic animals, including the OKC Zoo. He's obviously a nationally recognized for his work and very passionate about the animal chiropractic profession and also chiropractic in general, I would assume. And so we are super excited to have you here today. I'm going to turn it over to you. See what else you want to add. Tell us about, a little bit more about your background. I'd love to hear
Man.
about the construction injury. Just dive right in. And again, I apologize. I'm in and out of this blurriness.
No,
I'm
you're
a
you're totally
ghost
fine.
today.
No, you're totally fine. Yeah, so what's crazy is I do a lot of things all at one time. It's like whenever I'm at home, my wife will see me like start a project and then I got to go run errands, but I come back and finish that project. And so all through growing up, my grandpa owned a construction company, so I was working concrete all through high school and then into college where I was like summer vacations, spring break, I'd go back, work, make money. So I was pouring concrete. And whenever I was in school, my degree was actually in biochemistry and molecular biology. And so I was a nerd, and I had watched the movie The Rock with Nicolas Cage, where it's Nicolas Cage and I'm forgetting everybody's names now, but he's like this biochemical, like technician, whatever. He's actually a biochemist, and he's working with these biochemical weapons. I was like, man, that'd be really cool to do. So I got into school, and they were like, hey, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I think I want to do the hardest thing possible. What's that degree? And I'm like, biochemistry or molecular biology. I was like, all right, let's do it. So I was kind of playing around with being an MD or going off to DO school, and I had prior issues with medical interactions. I'll just put it that way, with family, with myself, and all. And so I was like, no, I think I'm going to go the nerd route. I'm going to go more of the chemistry route and all that. So I worked for the United States Department of Agriculture. Also, subsequently, or at the same time, I was working with the National Institute for Microbial Forensics and Food and Agricultural Biosecurity. So it was like crazy stuff. On one end, we were genetically modifying plants, and on the other end, I'm like diving into these viruses that are killing livestock and doing all this stuff, and talking with people in New Zealand about this and that and all this crazy stuff. Working in a lab, being a nerd, and I realized that I hated working in a lab. Test tubes didn't laugh at my jokes. I was really lonely. And so I went back to work construction while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And one day, all of the guys on our crew were like, all right, we're going to this other job. Go ahead and lift that 200-pound piece of equipment into the back of this truck. Oh, by the way, we're taking all the equipment, like the heavy machinery. So I'm putting up 2x4s and stuff, trying to get this piece of equipment into the back of this truck. And I hear a pop, and I end up on the ground. And my stepdad was like, hey, you should go see a chiropractor. And that started my journey into chiropractic, taking everything that I had from school, all my knowledge, my desire to be a nerd, and then applying that into the chiropractic profession. So, I mean, that's how I got into chiropractic. But yeah, don't let me have free reign or I'll talk forever about everything.
No, well, I mean, you're our guest, so that's why you're here. But I mean, that's all really cool stuff, way above my pay grade on that, all kind of molecular things. So then you became a chiropractor. So then what led you to the animal chiropractic world?
So, what's funny is I actually had a patient ask me that yesterday, so I got to tell that story. But I I went to my chiropractor. I ended up getting accepted to chiropractic school, and I was like, "Hey, if you could go back and do one thing different, what would you do?" And he's like, "Man, I'd go back and do the animal program." And I was like, "Animals? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, we had a lady bring a chicken in the other day. You're like, we can work on animals, and they have a spine. They deal with the same issues we do." And so I was thinking about my dog at the time, and I was like, "All right, well, maybe I need to start having her see a chiropractor." So whenever I got to chiropractic college, I talked to Dr. Gene Giggleman, and he was the my anatomy professor. He was a great friend, but he was also the veterinarian on campus that was doing animal chiropractic. So I started getting her worked on, and I was like, man, I just feel like this really strong tug to be able to work on animals. And hearing the story of BJ, he's like, we're going to work on animals to prove chiropractic to people no bias, all of these things. And I was like, man, I really need to get into this. And that just kind of set me on the path. And then so I'm that path or that urge got stronger and stronger and stronger all the way up until try eight. And I was like, I'm doing the animal program. So I did it concurrently. I was in try eight, did the animal program. Whenever I graduated, I had both, the human and animal chiropractic. And then whenever I got out, I was like, man, I really need to show the world chiropractic through the use of animal chiropractic. If I can work on this animal, then that's going to ignite the passion for people to maybe see a chiropractor. And I was getting out of school. I was like, all right, I need to be on the Ellen DeGeneres show. Like that was my thing. I was like, I have to be on the Ellen show because it's either her or Oprah. If I can get on that show and talk about chiropractic, man, I could change the world. And so I'm making videos and stuff. I'm working on zebras and random stuff here and there. And nobody around knew what animal chiropractic was. I'd be like introducing myself. Hi, I'm Dr. Whitley. I'm a human and animal chiropractor. And they're like, as a joke, right? And then now, I mean, everybody's like, oh yeah, we've heard of that. We've seen that. So it's been really cool. But, and that took off into the social media realm and all of that stuff. But yeah, that's, I got stories for days. So
Did
I
you
have to
end
let you
up
guys
on the
ask
show?
specific. No, I ended up on the Tamron Hall show. Ellen had already
Oh,
gotten off the air by that point. Was on like the
gotcha.
Tamron Hall show. Was supposed to go on the singer. She now has her own show. That's
Mm,
terrible. Kelly Clarkson
uh-huh.
show.
Yeah, Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, American
So
Idol.
yeah. So yeah. Yes. So I'm terrible with names. So the Kelly Clarkson show reached out and they were like, "Hey, we want to get you on." We had a date set. I was going to fly out there, be live, do all the things, and they were like, "Dude, we looked, and You were on the Tamron Hall show. We're on the same network, and there's a
Mm.
3-year rule or whatever. You cannot be on the same another show on the same network for a period of time." They're like, "I'm sorry, we're
Yeah.
going to have to hold off." I know. I was like, "Dadgum." So, but at the same time, our social media had reached such a I mean, it was at its height, and so I actually had more views on my stuff than Ellen had on hers, which was absolutely crazy and really, really cool, but I knew that was I mean, TikTok was exploding, and that really became a platform that helped so many people see animal chiropractic for the first time, that it was probably more people than would have seen it if I had been on the Ellen show, just because of the way social media worked, which that was a crazy experience of having I was having people from China call and people from I had a Russian head of state call my office and they're like, deep Russian accent, just like asking me about, this work I did with horses and, asking like how we do this. And it was just crazy. And then came all the bad crazy that came with that. And
Mhm.
yeah, all the stuff.
So, okay, so you mentioned, the first clinic you had chicken brought in, whatever. A lot of people, actually, how I first kind of came about to know you was through exotic animals, because of course everyone's heard stories or whatever. So, what's the first exotic animal that you actually adjusted?
So there is a story to that. Because I had this idea from something I'd heard about making your own success, right? So I was in Petco and the lady at Petco, I'm there with my dog and she's got a lizard, this like bearded gecko or bearded lizard. I say, I'm an animal chiropractor, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, can you work on my lizard? And I was like, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
So I'm checking and I'm like, I make an adjustment and he like stretches out and does his stuff. And she was like, wow, he really likes that. And so I'm messing with him. And then he comes over to me and he's like enthralled with me now and doesn't want to go back to the owner. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Well, I was like, I'm an exotic animal chiropractor now. And then so what I did is I immediately called the zoo. I was like, hey, I'm an exotic animal chiropractor of Oklahoma. I need to talk to the lead veterinarian at the zoo. I'd love to talk to you guys about exotic animal chiropractic for your animals. And they're like, solid. Does next Tuesday work? I'm like, yeah, yeah, yes, it does. Yes, that works. So they give me back access and I go through all the security stuff and I go in, I'm talking to the vet about what we do. And I'm brand new to not brand new to the profession, but I'm like, it's fake it till you make it. I mean, like, just because I didn't have that, I had the confidence, but it was 100% fake. I'm sitting there talking to her about all of this stuff. She's like, that sounds awesome. She's like, can you give me some insight into this x-ray? She pulls up this x-ray and I'm looking at it and I go through cervical, thoracic, lumbar. I'm like, why do you have a human x-ray here? Is this one of your staff? She goes, no, this is a silverback gorilla we're going to have you work on. What? And I was like,
Oh my God.
my God, okay, cool. So I'm like, all right, yeah, of course it is, whatever. And so, but it was one of those like tests, like, what do you see? And I'm like, oh, I see the spondylosis here. I see this. This could be from this. And I'm guessing with this, you probably have this going on. And she's like, actually, that's 100% accurate. Like, Are you available next Sunday? And I was like, yes, I am. Well, a couple days later, it was like, hey, gorilla actually went down, lost all use of back end. We had to euthanize. And I'm like, oh man, sad. And also sad. I'm like, Dad, well, that was an experience I could have had, but I didn't have. And whole thing's sad. And then they called me back up a couple weeks later. They're like, hey, we have a bear that we need you to come work on like tomorrow. Can you come up? And I was like, yes, I can. And walked in, and it was the first time I had been in that close encounter with a live animal in the surgery suite of a zoo. And they brought me in, and I'm like, there's a bear on the table in front of me. I'm supposed to work on it. It was a really cool experience. And that really led into more of the exotic stuff, more of the monkeys and the lions and all the things and the trips to Africa and all that. So
What's your
sorry, I got
favorite
really long explanations for everything.
no, that's great. What's your favorite exotic animal to adjust? Or I guess any it doesn't have to be exotic, but so what's your favorite animal to adjust?
Puppies, every time puppies. So,
That
yeah,
smell.
yeah, it's everything that has to do with puppies. So, I get asked that question a lot, and I absolutely love working on puppies because it's just this ball of just adorableness at the same time you're working on it, and typically they go and they just fall asleep. So we have owners bring in like their entire litter of puppies. We work on all of them or, check them, and then they all just go and fall asleep. And they're fun, and my patients love it. They walk in, there's puppies everywhere. And but exotic animals, I would say I don't really know. Like there's complexities with each one. So like you work on a bat, the complexity of that, the fragility versus like a Cape buffalo. There's a massive difference between the two, and having to really use your brain going, okay, well, this animal is recumbent, or like it's laying on its side, and I'm in a trailer, and it's darted, which means at any point it could come out of sedation. What do I
Right.
do? It's There's complexity to that. But yeah, any animal, I would go back to puppies every time.
Okay, cool. I love it. Alright, Byron, I cut you off already, so I'll let you
No,
have
you're
finished.
good. No, you're good. No, I feel like, the conversation was going into such a fun storytelling, right? I'm like, oh man, he's at a zoo. Like, this is so cool. Puppies, yeah, we all get that for sure, but the gorilla, right? But
That's
Yeah.
pretty legit.
for me, Doc, I know you most from I got the chance to do your webinar that you did on chiropractic neurology for animal chiropractic, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if you remember that. Thank you for submitting that, by the way.
Yeah.
I also personally come from the chiropractic neurology background. I was a member of the IACN. I did all the hours. I just decided to
Oh,
go the
yeah.
animal route the other way. I think you're phenomenal at representing that information to the profession in general. And now that you've kind of reached that level where you're I'm going to use social media superstar, and you're kind of like leading the way, and you're up there on that platform, and you're the voice for reason. Where do you see the animal chiropractic profession going, kind of in your position of being able to, I guess, guide it a little bit and possibly teach people also how to have the success that you have?
Oh man, that's a deep one because I see where there are roadblocks or speed bumps where if we don't take them appropriately, then it's like a speed bump. I mean, if you take it too fast, you can cause damage. And I think that's kind of there are some things that I see that I'm like, if we don't get ahead of this or learn to adapt to this thing, it could definitely bite us. Jumping ahead of certain things, like there were things in the past that I was like, hey, I think this is a big problem, and some overseeing bodies were like, we don't think it's a problem. Well, a year later, they're like, this is a huge problem. How do we fix this? And I'm like,
Right.
I told you. So I think ultimately it's going in the positive direction with animals as long as we continue to show with reason. Like going back to that webinar, if we can dive down and understand what we do, and then we can be able to say we do this in layman's terms, but here's why we do it, and then explain it in a deeper sense, not necessarily going to the depth of functional neurology like you probably have under your belt, but more like I do this and it does this because of this, and being able to just have that knowledge, I think it's going to create more awareness, but also like give people the tools they need to be able to defend what they do. Because on the social media side, I watch veterinarians trash what we do. I watch medical doctors trash what we do, and it's very disheartening. Very, very, very disheartening. And so, like, being able to combat that with knowledge is key, and rather than being like, I don't know how it works, but it works. It still works, but being able to explain why it works and how it works gives us that little bit of a leverage. Ultimately, though, I think it's all in a positive direction. I just think that there are the louder we are, the louder we are going to, or the more backlash we are going to receive at the same time, just because of the history of chiropractic, the nature of overseeing bodies that are ignorant. and I don't mean our overseeing bodies, but I'm talking about just overseeing bodies in general. I mean, like go back to Wilk versus AMA, just blatant ignorance. And then we see that same thing gearing up now towards the chiropractic profession in general.
Mhm.
So if we can be that voice of reason and put the stuff out there that's supposed to be out there. I mean, like I think the IBCA was talking about having more and more research and actually doing research grants for different things. Which, man, I don't know if you guys have ever tried to do research in this field, but dadgum, it is hard to go here. Let me create something that's bulletproof. You can't put a hole through it. It's very difficult to define that.
Right.
Um, which I've tried and tried and tried to do, and I've had meetings with veterinarians and stuff over, that work for that do research, and I'm like, hey, what about this? And I'm like, well, we can poke a hole here. Crap. Okay, what about this? And I'm like, well, that'd be a good idea, but it's like the lowest form of evidence. I'm like, crap. So ultimately, I think it's all headed in the positive direction. But I think more people being out there with knowledge is the biggest thing. Because if somebody trashes my work, I can go, yeah, we do this, and here's why. And they're like, my favorite, you're just a chiropractor, you don't know anything. But yeah, it's one of those things. So if you can be like, no, actually, and here's our education, or here's this. And obviously I'm being very vague, and I'm going to go into more of that over the weekend.
Sure.
But yeah, hopefully I answered that.
So I have to ask. So you had talked about social media, things like that. Obviously, the giraffe. Does it like kicked up so much interest, whether it was positive or negative or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, what happened with that? Like, how did you tackle it? Where there was a lot of negative press out there for you of like, oh my God, you killed this giraffe. Like, there were so many stories out there.
Oh, I
And then there
know.
were other ones
Yeah.
that it was like, oh, you did amazing. Like, no, this giraffe really needed help. So, like, how did you steer that? And what was the actual outcome of it and not just, hearsay on
Yeah.
social media?
So I've worked on giraffes in Africa, right? So that was a great experience having that first, where in Africa I was able to work on giraffes in the wild, knowing the safety things that I would have never even thought about, like working on one, here in the States. So Africa it's a jungle. It's the wild. I mean, you can kind of I don't want to say do whatever you want, but you're capable of doing more than what you can here in the States due to animal welfare laws or different laws that are put in place about how you interact with animals, all those things. So I had been invited, or I reached out to somebody with a giraffe at one point, started talking about chiropractic, and they're like, hey, we want you to come to this seminar all about giraffes. I was like, okay. So I go and I end up meeting all of these people who own giraffes, which is a crazy concept. People that own giraffes, not the zoo, people that have giraffes,
So weird.
it's also really cool too, because these people are very, very big into conservation. And so they are doing things that the zoos aren't even doing, because they are first and foremost, like, this is an animal. I want to take care of it the best I can. How do we, like, hoof trimming for giraffes was created or discovered by these people that own giraffes. Cause they're like, hey, what my horses need their feet, trimmed. What about my giraffe? So it created this entire group of education that can then be implemented in zoos and whatnot, safaris or whatever. And so one of the ladies was like, hey, I'm in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, I have to preface that because a lot of them are in Texas. This was in Oklahoma. I didn't travel into another state to do this. And she said, I'd be totally fine with you coming to work on my giraffe. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So one day she's like, hey, would you be interested in coming in? I was like, yeah, sure. So we go and it's kind of a weird concept, kind of like the bear on the table. Bear on the table poses no threat to me, but a wild giraffe, it's like, okay, if I was to get near its legs, I can get kicked. If I do this, I get an ossicone to the face and break my skull. If I do this, so it was a kind of a calculated thing. And I say, hey, does he have any issues? I'm watching him and I can see his head is doing this. She said, actually, yeah, he was being dumb and got his ossicone stuck in something and twisted his head really hard. And I notice it whenever he chews that food will come out of one side of his mouth, but not the other. I was like, okay, well, let me check it. So I was up on the upper level of their facility. And so we lowered this little thing down and he brought his head over. He was super cuddly and all that stuff. But I'm testing everything and she's watching her giraffe and going, okay, I know what the signs are for whenever he's upset. I know when he's ticked off because every animal will have its different tells. Horse, we watch the ears. Donkeys, I watch the jaw. I watch the smile. Like that frown I'm like, okay, hold up, they're ticked. So with a giraffe, it's like a tail thing and this and a couple different things. And so she's like, he's loving what you're doing. So I'm going into it really slow, trying to make sure that I'm not ticking him off because I'm like, I'm right here, get smacked in the head, I'm in trouble. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to play with this area. I'm going to move it around, see how he reacts. So then I make a little adjustment. And he's like, loving it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go a little deeper and a little deeper. And now finally I make the adjustment. And so I'm like, okay, I got that moving. I got the jaw moving. And then he's like all over me. And she goes, he doesn't do this with anybody. He's not all over them like he is with you. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, maybe he likes it. So we spend some time there and we leave. And she's like, he hasn't had this issue with his jaw and he hasn't been doing the weird head thing anymore. I'm like, fantastic, cool. But then it's like, okay, to do any of the other adjustments we may need to do, it requires us getting him into a chute, which requires special assistance, which requires this and that. And so it was like, okay, we're going to work on the neck, see how he reacts. I'm also going to an owner. This is their baby. And I'm going to go, hey, let me just beat up on your animal. But we had to go into it with a tact in class. And we're so glad this was a great experience. Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll come in on another time and do these things. That was the extent of that adjustment. Everything from that's AI to there's no way you could move a giraffe bone because they weigh 40 pounds each. Some stupid stuff like that. It's all biomechanics. It's all leverage. But people don't understand that. They don't understand physics. And so, yeah, I've had good and I've had some bad. And, it's just been kind of an adventure. I don't know really, like if you ask me something specific, I can be like, yeah, that guy's a moron. And he said this, but typically most of it's been really, really good. But I mean, I will say whenever I was on like a national podcast or news station or something talking about the giraffe, they were asking these stupidest questions. And they were like, what did it feel like? And I'm like, his hair was prickly. His hair was prickly and he had oil over. Like, well, that's kind of a weird question. Like I'm thinking they're going to ask these like really in-depth questions. No, it was like stupid stuff. What did his breath smell like? I'm like, I don't know, whatever.
You should have just made up some bunch of stuff. It smelled like bubble gum and kisses,
Yeah.
rainbows.
Yeah. I worked on a bear cat. They do smell like buttered popcorn. So that's kind of cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Rachel, go ahead. I heard
Yeah.
you.
No, you're totally fine. So on that kind of route with, with the social media, people become keyboard warriors, right? And everybody's, super brave. Love those people. They're great. What's one myth, I guess, about animal chiropractic that you would love to retire or love to set true for those keyboard warriors who come out of the woodworks?
There's not one. There's not one. There's many. I had a medical doctor reach out because I had commented on his stuff, and I try to be witty with my comments. Sometimes you catch me on a bad day, I'm gonna try to annihilate you. But I try to be witty. So the medical doctor is like, well, how does this animal tell you it's in pain? And I'm like, I'm sorry, were you asking me or every veterinarian that's ever lived? I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Stupid question.
Yeah, and then he was like, good point. Well, that led into a conversation of it was witty, but it wasn't directed in a mean way. So what it did is it created a wit of like, that was a stupid question, buddy. And then it led to conversation. Like I actually was texting that doctor earlier today. Like him and I have exchanged numbers, and we go back and forth on social media with witty stuff where most of it's on human stuff because they don't dare touch the animal stuff because they don't know anything about it. But there's stuff like that, or animals don't need chiropractic. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Or animals don't need care. In the wild, they're totally fine. I'm like, you're right. We should just get rid of veterinary services. And they're like, wait a minute, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, you don't make stupid comments because we do dentistry, we do hoof care, there's so many things that are done for animals now that extend longevity. And it's really crazy. You start working on some of these animals and you're like, yeah, how old is this animal? And they're like, oh, it's 15. I'm like, wow, what's life expectancy in the wild? They're like 2. It's really, really crazy to see how much that care extends the lifespan. And I've watched animals in the wild giraffes die from choking on bones. Giraffes will chew on bones in the wild for calcium and they will choke on them and die. And I saw that in Africa. And I'm like, it's just a crazy, crazy concept. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have one. There's lots, but.
Oh, that's good. So kind of sort of wrapping this up a little bit because we don't want to take too much of your time, but what would you say is the biggest caution, or I don't want to say mistake that you've seen some newer grads that if you could give them some advice, be like, don't do this, I will save you the anguish and the whatever that comes along with it. Any mistakes that you feel like you could help prevent somebody from? I know.
That's a huge list.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about social media, I would say don't make statements too often we make statements, and I'm guilty of it as well. Like I was filming something, or I was actually working on this dog and somebody was filming me. And so I was talking to the owner. I'm talking to a layperson. I'm not talking to every doctor on social media. Talking to a layperson. I say something. My team has that video put together. I don't have a team anymore, but when I did, they put together a video and put it online. And I think I was actually in Africa with no cell phone service, when they put that video up. And I mean, I got reamed for it, but that video is actually what helped me desire to learn more about what we do and why we do it, the neurology and all that. But we say stuff as we're talking to the layperson, the owner. If we know it's going to be on social media, giving that detail, saying the lay thing, and then giving the detailed explanation of why, not for the owner, but because you know that there are going to be doctors on social media that try to rip your stuff apart. And what they'll do is they'll take that video and then they will post it to their page and just trash you for it. And then that creates this entire group of people that think you're an idiot because you're saying something, but you're saying it in a way that everyone can understand. But you forget that somebody is going to try to shred it, if that makes sense. I see it all the time. And one of the things actually in the neurology webinar that I did was specifically about the paniculus response. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to repeat what I've been told, but I didn't really understand the depth of why, or nobody's really explained the depth of why. So then I repeat what I've been told, and then I can't give the explanation of why. So then I get shredded. I see that a lot on social media. And I would say if you're going to make videos, just know that, and especially if you're going to be putting them online, know that people are going to shred your stuff. People, and don't ever read the comments. Don't ever read the comments. Oh
Yeah,
man.
I did a video, just a quick video of why I prefer, as a chiropractor, a harness for a dog because it removes the pressure off of the neck and puts it more in between the shoulder blades. My God, people just lose their freaking minds. Well, if you properly train your dog, I was like, you missed the whole point of the video.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
That's good.
it's
I
a
like that.
it's a don't look at the comments. That is my number one advice if you're on social media. It can get really disheartening. I've been doing this for a long time, and there are days where, I mean, it's one of the recent videos. I actually have not posted online in probably 2 months. I've made little stories and stuff, but I haven't really posted because I had a veterinarian that I thought was we got great veterinarian friends and all that stuff. So is this one specific one that I kind of looked up to her. We were kind of on equal ground, and she said something about like, yeah, he doesn't know anything. He's just a stupid chiropractor. And it hit me really, really hard. And I was like, wow, like it just hurt. I'll just put it that way. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm done with the social media stuff for a while. So don't look at the comments. Don't, just post and don't look at it and keep posting, I guess. But make sure that you have knowledge in what you're posting.
On the veterinarian route, I'd just make it more, I guess, more light of it. You seem to be very good at communicating with veterinarians and other professionals in general. I mean, you come across being able to, whether it be create network meetings, just be able to be on an even playing field of professionalism. If you could give advice to someone that's coming in as an animal chiropractor to help them relate to veterinarian professionals that, one, might not, we'll use the word respect, but we'll use the word not know what you do, and to be able to connect with them very quickly, or at least professionally, what would be some advice that you would give them?
Man, so the biggest thing is I think a lot of it starts with us before we ever go into that conversation, knowing that we are on an even playing field, because too often professions will seek validation. I seek validation that I am a real doctor, seek validation that, all of those things. And so I would say knowing that you're on an even playing field, or that you have knowledge that maybe this person doesn't have, which puts you at a higher advantage to being able to explain it in a way, takes out that desire for validation. And like that eagerness and that earning, like, please listen to respect me. It's like, here, let me just tell you what we do. This is what we do. If you have any questions, like, please ask, because I'd love to explain what we do. And if you give it without emotion and just as here is the thought process behind this, then I think it goes a long way in helping not only with validating what we do, but also dispelling myths. I did a thing for the veterinarian roundtable, and it was kind of one of a couple of try to gotcha moments, and it was like, well, they have this, so you can't adjust. I'm like, actually we do, and here's why. And then you go in through all of that knowledge and being able to explain it, they go, oh, I never thought about that. Fantastic. You can refer to my office. No, but it's,
yeah.
So I would say it really starts with us and that even if we're a new doc, like understanding the knowledge base that you already have helps you create those relationships, because you go into it with a neutral, no ego, just a neutral, this is who I am. This is what I do. I'd love there to be a beautiful relationship between the two of us. And that's how I'd say go about doing it versus the either I'm seeking validation or I'm coming from this direction, which is not great either. But I think that's the best advice I can give right now. But we'll go into more of that, I think, whenever we do some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about at the seminar.
Solid.
Yeah, speaking of Cozumel, can you talk a
That's a
little bit
great
more about
segue.
your topic and presentation, and what are you most excited to
Yeah.
kind of dive into in Cozumel? That's what, I don't want to say that's why we're here, but definitely tell us more about Cozumel and what y'all excited.
What's it? With it being Cozumel, scuba diving, obviously. The scuba diving there is great, by the way. So what I'm really excited about is the neurology portion. So I'm going to be speaking for 6 hours. 3 hours of that's neurology. Now, I talk fast. My webinar was 2 hours. And I had some history stuff in there, but I talked really fast and there was obviously no ability for questions. And so about 3 hours for neurology stuff, working through, and I say neurology, it's really the subluxation complex as we actually know of it today, rather than the old theories of subluxation. It's basically the evolution of what it is today. I'm really excited to nerd out about that because it's so cool. And I'm a nerd anyway, so I'm like super fascinated by that stuff. But then I'll also be going through some exotic animal stuff because if I say, hey, you want to go work on a giraffe? You're like, okay, let's go. And it's like, do you understand the safety stuff about what you're about to walk into? I had a guy ask me to work on a king cobra, and I was like, no,
Ugh. Nope.
no.
I don't do snakes. Nope.
Negative, hard pass.
I just worked on a rattlesnake for him, and he held
Nope.
it the whole time. He's like, "I'll just hold the cobra," and I was like, "No,
F
man,
that noise.
he's kind of ticked today. Yeah, we're not doing that." So, but it's like understanding the reality of what we do, right? So that I said something like the truth behind the shiny. Like you see something, you're like, "This is gonna be so cool," and you get into it, you're like, "Oh my gosh, what I get into?" Or like, what safety things are there, or what's it would be really cool to work on an Arctic fox, and then you come out looking like a snowball, and you've been peed on, and you're like, "That wasn't as cool as I thought it'd be." Or whatever. So it's stuff like that. So, and then we're going to be working through some of like our history, like our chiropractic history, some of the crazy stuff. It's like, I was actually talking to another doctor about it today. If we talked about like World War II and you're like, okay, cool. And then you dive into like, did you know that they strapped cats inside of bombs and tried to use them for homing, for homing missiles? You're like, what? What? That didn't happen. And you looked up and you're like, that actually happened. The espionage, like behind our history, like secret spies from the Church of Scientology and like all of this crazy stuff. If people don't know, it's really, really cool history, but it also dives into history now, where we're going now, where people use Chat GPT for everything. Well, Chat GPT uses like 49% of its information from Wikipedia. And if you've ever been on the chiropractic Wikipedia page, it's garbage.
God.
So
Quack waffs.
yeah. And then, yes. Yeah. And there's Quack Guru and all the edits that are done and how many views or how many people check and view Wikipedia for their source of material every single day. And it's garbage. And then some of the stuff we're dealing with now, but also apologetics in how to have those conversations by using our history, by using the information from neurology, being able to give the information and being able to defend what you do, not as a person trying to pick a fight, but more as a lawyer in a courtroom going, and judge, here are the facts. So we're going to be diving into that, which I think is really cool. And then I think I had some business stuff on there. I don't remember. It's a lot. It'll be fun though. It'll be good.
That sounds about
Really
right.
good.
It's 6 hours. It's gonna be a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I want to
But
be
with
tired.
that, if anybody is listening at this very point as we're recording it, we only have 10 spots left. So once the rooms are out, they're out. So if you do have anybody that you've heard whispers they want to join, they can. Once we're sold out of spots, they can only do online. So there's still the option, but they may not be able to get in the room with us.
Yep.
That's cool.
I'm excited. I have two
Yeah.
fun questions left for you. We
Yeah.
always try to have some fun ones and just trying to be conscious of everyone's time. So if not an animal chiropractor or a human chiropractor, what career would you either secretly want to try or go back to? Would you go back to construction? What would you do?
Oh no, I wouldn't go back to construction. It's fun. I can say I work with my hands and stuff, but I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. I also wanted to always be an astronaut, a marine biologist. My lawyer says I'm really good at arguing. So like I think being a lawyer for a minute would be fun. Just so I can be in the courtroom. I don't care about any of all the other stuff. Other than that, I mean, I really want to fly. Like that, it's a blast. So other than that, I think that's about it. I liked working in a lab. It was really cool, but it got really boring. When you're working with like dangerous viruses, it's like, ooh, but you can't tell anybody and you can't show anybody what you're doing and you could die. It's just stuff like that.
That sounds terrible. Yeah, that's really cool. I know you want to die, but you don't want to tell anyone. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is cool.
I should backtrack for a second. I love these podcasts. I feel like I learned so much on every single one that we've done. We just released Dr. Aaron's, and she was talking about raw food, and I learned so much. Like, I am not a history person. It was not my thing. So talking about the
Yeah.
cat thing, I'm like, I am definitely going to go look that up later. So I apologize. I am not a history person. I can't wait to hear more stories. Okay, last question, just to wrap us up here. What is one word that describes the future of animal chiropractic for you?
Oh, man.
One
I
word's
would say
so hard.
hopeful.
I
Yeah,
know.
no, I would say hopeful, but that's like that's B class word. I don't like it's exciting. It really is exciting. My favorite word right now is ignorant, but I told my wife that yesterday because so many people are, and we can use it. And I love using words in a way that like makes sense. That you're like, I'm using this word as it is intended and defined, and this person is ignorant, or whatever. But I would say exciting, awesome for animal chiropractic. I'm really excited for what it's going to turn into, especially with more people being knowledge based. More people are interested in it. The public is more interested in animal chiropractic now than they probably ever have been. They're like, you can work on these animals. Oh yeah, you should come by my office, see what we do. No, I think exciting or awesome would probably be a combo word that I would use.
Yeah, there's just
Love
so
it.
much movement in the animal chiropractic profession right now, and it's really great to be behind it. So cool. Well, I really appreciate your time and being on our podcast again. If you have not registered for Cozumel, there's only 10 spots left, and there is a deadline. This is not like every other animal or every other chiropractic seminar you've been to. The deadline is much earlier. Like every other chiropractic profession, it's like 2 weeks before you can still get in the room block. No, the room block ends in April. So because it's an all inclusive, so slightly different. So
Mhm.
if y'all want to register, go ahead and register. I'll put the link below for you guys. But I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us, and we can't wait to see you guys in Cozumel.